I've always been the type to stay in control, to calculate, to think twice, to play it safe. But something about that night felt different. Maybe it was the quiet buzz of boredom or the way my heart had been feeling a little too heavy lately, like I needed to break free from my own routine. Or maybe I just wanted to know what would happen if I stopped second-guessing everything for once. So I picked up my phone, stared at his name for a few seconds longer than I should have, and I called him. We hadn't spoken much since that last time. You know, the kind of conversations that end without closure, just a long thread of silence hanging in the air. There was no fight, no drama. Just distance. And yet, his voice still echoed somewhere in the back of my mind. The way he laughed, the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. He had a presence, intense, unpredictable, a little dangerous in that magnetic kind of way. And that night, I wanted to feel something real. Something raw. I wanted to test my limits, push past that invisible line I'd drawn around my comfort zone. He picked up on the second ring. His voice? Calm, curious, like he already knew something was up. I didn't even need to explain much. Can you come over? That was all it took. He said yes without hesitation. No questions. No delay. And suddenly, everything around me felt sharper. The air, the silence, the seconds ticking by until he would arrive. As I waited, my mind raced. Was this a mistake? Was I just being reckless? I didn't know what I wanted from him exactly, I just knew I didn't want to feel stuck anymore. He had this energy, like he lived on the edge of chaos, and being around him made me feel braver, even if just for a moment. But part of me also wondered if I was in over my head. The sound of a knock on the door jolted me out of my thoughts. My stomach flipped. I took one last look at myself in the mirror, trying to look composed, but I could see the nerves in my eyes. I opened the door, and there he was. Same quiet confidence. Same intense gaze. Except this time, it felt different. Like there was something unspoken hanging between us, something waiting to unfold. He stepped inside, and for a moment, we just stood there. No words. Just this electric stillness. I could feel my heart pounding. It wasn't just about him, it was about me facing something I'd been avoiding. The side of me that craved more than just safety and predictability. The side that wanted to feel alive, even if it meant getting a little lost along the way. We sat down. Talked. Laughed a little. And then there were pauses. Long ones. The kind where everything you don't say speaks louder than what you do. And in those silences, I realized something. This wasn't just a late-night decision or a random call. This was me reaching out for something bigger. For clarity, for closure, or maybe just for chaos. I still wasn't sure. But as the night unfolded, something shifted. Something in the air, in the way he looked at me, in the way I felt more like myself and a stranger at the same time. It wasn't just about testing limits anymore, it was about discovering where they truly were. And then, he said something. Just one sentence. But it changed everything. What he said. That's where things started to turn. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss what happened next. He looked me straight in the eye, leaned back slightly, and said, "You sure you're ready for this?" That was it. Just that one question, but the weight behind it? It was enough to silence everything else in the room. I didn't answer right away. I didn't know how. My mind started spinning, trying to catch up with the moment. What did he mean? What exactly was I signing up for by calling him over like this? He wasn't the kind of person you could predict. That was part of the reason I called him in the first place. There was something about the way he carried himself, calm but alert, like someone who'd been through more than they ever talked about. We used to be close, in a strange way. Not in the post everything online kind of way, but more like we saw sides of each other no one else did. That kind of closeness comes with layers. And sometimes, those layers start to peel back when you least expect it. Back then, things between us had been easy on the surface, talks that went too deep, late-night walks that turned into hours. But underneath it, I think we both knew we were hiding things. Not necessarily from each other, but from ourselves. He never spoke much about his past, only dropped vague lines like, "Some things are better left alone." And I never pushed. Maybe because I had things I was avoiding too. Maybe because I knew if I pulled too hard, everything would fall apart. But now, sitting across from him in the low light of my apartment, it felt like all the quiet truths we'd been avoiding were starting to rise. I could see it in his eyes, he was holding something back. Not in a dramatic way, but in a heavy, quiet way that said, "There's more to this night than you think." I tried to act normal, casual even. "What do you mean, am I ready?" I asked, trying to meet his energy. He gave me this small smile, half amused, half something else. "I mean, people don't just make calls like that unless they're looking for something real," he said. And real usually means messy. He wasn't wrong. I didn't invite him over for small talk or closure. Deep down, I think I was testing the version of me that wanted to take chances. But there was still so much I didn't know about what I was stepping into. Something told me this night wasn't going to end the way it started. We talked more, though neither of us said exactly what we were thinking. Instead, we danced around things, stories from the past, weird dreams, subtle glances. I could feel the tension growing, not in a forced way, but in that quiet pull when something unspoken is just waiting to break through. At one point, I noticed him looking around my place. He paused at the old photo frame by the shelf. The one with me and someone else, someone I hadn't talked about in years. He didn't say anything, but I could feel the shift in the room. Like he remembered something. Or maybe he knew more than I thought he did. I asked him, "What are you not telling me?" He didn't answer right away. Just looked down, then back at me. And then, out of nowhere, he stood up and walked to the window. Quiet. Still. Like he was searching for the right words, or deciding if he should say anything at all. "I didn't come here just because you called," he finally said. "There's something I need to tell you." And just like that, the air changed. What he said next, that's when everything started to shift. And the line between what I wanted and what I was actually ready for began to blur. He didn't turn around right away. Just stood there at the window, watching the street below like he was weighing every possible outcome before saying a word. I waited, not wanting to rush him, but my heart was racing. I knew something was coming, I just didn't know what, or how deep it would go. Finally, without looking at me, he said, "I've been keeping something from you. And it's not small." My mind instantly went in 100 directions. Was it about us? About that night we never talked about? Or something completely different? He finally turned to face me, and the look in his eyes wasn't one I'd seen before. It wasn't anger or sadness, it was something closer to guilt. Or regret. The kind that doesn't come from making one mistake, but from carrying the weight of something for a long time. "I didn't come here tonight just to see you," he said. "Someone's been asking questions about you. About us. About what happened before." That sentence hit me harder than I expected. I'd spent so much time trying to forget the past, convincing myself that what happened wasn't important anymore. But clearly, someone thought it was. I didn't ask who right away. I just sat there, quiet, trying to process what that meant. And slowly, I started to realize, this night wasn't just about testing my limits. It was about being pulled back into something I thought I'd buried. "Who?" I asked, finally breaking the silence. He hesitated, then said, "Someone from the old place." "You remember Rafi?" I did. All too well. Rafi wasn't just someone from our past. He was connected to something bigger, something we had both walked away from for a reason. The kind of thing you don't bring up unless it's serious. He started pacing a little, rubbing his hands together like he was trying to work through what to say next. He's been asking around. Showing up in places he shouldn't. And I think whatever he's looking for, it starts with you. Everything suddenly felt heavier. This wasn't just about unfinished feelings or second chances. This was about secrets, old ones, that were crawling back up to the surface. And if Rafi was involved, it meant we were dealing with more than just emotions. There was a history here. One with consequences. As he spoke, I caught myself scanning the room, checking the door, listening for sounds outside. Paranoia? Maybe. But the way he was talking, the look in his eyes, it told me this wasn't just drama. This was real. And it wasn't going away anytime soon. I stood up slowly, feeling the weight in my chest tighten. "Why now?" I asked. "Why is he coming back after all this time?" He didn't answer right away. Just kept pacing, glancing toward the door like he expected someone to knock any second. The silence between us was sharp, almost louder than anything he could have said. Then he stopped, faced me, and said, "Because he thinks you still have it." My blood ran cold. I didn't even have to ask what it was. That one word brought everything back, those late nights, the rushed decisions, the moment we agreed to walk away and never speak of it again. We thought we'd buried it for good. But Rafi, he never let go. And if he was digging now, that meant he believed I had something worth chasing. Or something worth taking back. "I don't," I said quickly, almost too quickly. "I don't have anything." He gave me a look. Not accusing, but not fully believing me either. "That's what I told him," he said, his voice low. But I don't think he bought it. I felt like the walls were closing in. The room, once so familiar, now felt unsafe, like anything could happen. A car passed outside and I flinched. Every sound felt amplified. He stepped closer, his voice more serious than ever. "Listen, if he shows up, don't open the door. Don't talk. Don't explain anything. Just call me." "What if it's too late?" I whispered. He didn't answer. My phone buzzed on the table. We both stared at it. Unknown number. Neither of us moved. That one vibration sent chills down my spine. It could have been anyone. But in that moment, it didn't feel random. It felt planned. Intentional. Like someone was watching. Like someone already knew. He picked up his jacket, eyes still on the screen. "We don't have much time." I asked, "What are we going to do?" He looked at me, his face unreadable. And then, before he could answer, someone knocked on the door. 3 times. Slow. Deliberate. We froze. The knock echoed through the room like a countdown. 3 slow hits, calm, steady, too confident to be random. He stepped back from the door, eyes locked on it, like he was trying to see through the wood. I could hear my own breathing, fast and shallow, like my body already knew this wasn't going to end quietly. I moved closer to him, my voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think it's him?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It looked old, worn at the edges like it had been handled too many times. "I wasn't going to show you this," he said, "but if it's him out there, you need to see it now." I opened the paper with shaky hands. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't a threat, or a message from Rafi. It was a photo of me, taken from a distance. Blurry, but clearly recent. I felt the floor shift under me. "Where did you get this?" I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. "It was on my windshield this morning," he said, voice tight. No note. Just that. I looked back at the door. Another knock. This time, faster. Impatient. That's when I realized it might not be Rafi. There was someone else. Someone we never talked about. Someone we both thought had disappeared a long time ago. I turned to him slowly, the question already forming in my throat. What if this isn't about the past? What if this is about her? His face went pale. He nodded once. Small. Barely noticeable. "I've been getting messages," he said quietly. But I didn't want to believe it was her. Not after everything. Outside, a shadow moved past the window. And this time, the door handle turned. The door handle stopped mid-turn. Everything went still. He motioned for me to back away, and I did, barely breathing. He reached for the door slowly, then swung it open in one quick move, ready for anything. But it wasn't Rafi. And it wasn't her. It was a woman we didn't recognize. Calm. Mid-30s. Wearing all black, no expression on her face. She didn't flinch when she saw us. Just stepped inside like she belonged there and held up a phone. On the screen was a photo. The same one that had been left on his windshield, only this time, there were coordinates below it. A location. "I don't have time to explain everything," she said, voice sharp, clipped. "But you need to leave. Now. Both of you. They're not after what you think." He stepped in front of me, protective. "Who sent you?" She looked at me, ignoring the question. "They're after her. Not because of what she has, but because of what she knows." That's when it clicked. It had never been about the past or the object we thought we'd hidden. It was about a night I tried to forget, one I thought no one else remembered. But someone did. And they were making sure I couldn't forget either. We rushed out, not even locking the door behind us. As we made it to the street, headlights flashed in the distance, too bright, too focused. Then came the final twist. He turned to me, breathless, and said, "You never told me everything, did you?" I didn't answer. Because the truth was, I hadn't. And now, it was too late to turn back. I looked at him, my heart still racing, and finally said, "No. I didn't tell you everything. I was trying to protect you." His expression didn't change, but I could see the shift in his eyes. He nodded once, like a part of him had already suspected it. The car with the headlights slowed as it passed, then kept driving. For now, we were safe. But the truth between us was out, and there was no taking it back. We walked in silence for a while, cutting through side streets, neither of us asking where we were going. There wasn't a clear plan, just the need to get away. The woman had disappeared without a trace, no explanation, no warning. All we had were the coordinates on the photo and the questions still hanging in the air. Later, as we sat on a bench by the water, the night calm around us, I finally told him the whole story. About what really happened that night. What I saw. What I remembered. And why I stayed silent. He listened without interrupting, just taking it all in. No anger. Just a quiet kind of understanding. When I finished, he looked out over the dark water and said, "They were never after the thing. They were after the truth. And now that it's out, maybe we can finally stop running." In that moment, I realized something. Testing your limits isn't just about danger or taking risks, it's about facing the things you've buried deep. The things you're scared might break you. But sometimes, telling the truth is the most powerful thing you can do. And maybe, just maybe, that's where everything begins again.